Hello, it's Toasted Party, and today I'm going to be talking about a Phantom Knight hero deck profile that I put together for common charity format, and show a few test hands alongside of it. So I've been trying to brew up a few different common charity deck lists, and one of the ones I've been most interested in is Phantom Knights. They have almost every single card legal at common, with the exception of a few things like Rusty Bardiche. So I figured there has to be a way to make this deck good. What I realized was, this deck was good prior to Rusty Bardiche, so why not go back and look at what kind of list people were running back before Bardiche? So that's just what I did. So let's move on to the deck profile. So here we are with the list. So the list that I based this one off of was a regional top from 2016 in the town of Shreveport, Louisiana. I'll post the link to the original deck list in the description. But without further ado, let's go into this current list. So, one thing that definitely had to change from the original list was the deck needed to have some kaijus in the main deck. And the best one to be running is Radian the Multi-Dimensional Kaiju. It is a dark kaiju, and it has the lowest attack of the common charity legal kaijus. We have 2 copies of Elemental Hero Shadow Mist. When it's special summoned, it can add a change quick play card from deck to hand. It's just an easy way to get into Dark Law. We have 1 copy of Psychic Tracker. It is a free level 3 special summon. We have Speedroy Terratop. That is a free special summon of both itself and Takatomborg if you have no monsters on field. We have 1 copy of Stained Greaves. Not the best Phantom Knight card, but it's still good enough to play at 1. 3 copies of Card That Didn't Load, that being Marauding Captain. It is a normal summon that puts another level 4 or lower monster from your hand, so it's an easy card to just get enough materials onto field to make a rank 3, in case your hand is clogged with the Phantom Knights cards that don't special summon themselves. Speaking of which, we have 3 copies of all of the good Phantom Knight cards, that being Ragged Gloves, Ancient Cloak, and Silent Boots, along with that 1 Takatomborg. These are just the cards you want to either mill off of your Dante, or in the case of Silent Boots, want to see in your opening hand because it's a free special summon if you have another Phantom Knight monster on your field. We have 2 copies of Kagamucha Knight, a monster that special summons itself to the field if you normal summon a level 3. As you know, the main aim of the game is summon your rank 3s. They're very important in this deck. We have then 3 copies of Lure of Darkness. Basically, every monster in this deck is dark, and you really want to see sort of samey hands to do your combos, and additional consistency is nice. Also, it's not bad to banish your cards because of Levier the Sea Dragon. It's sometimes actually beneficial to just banish a card. Then we have 3 copies of Transmodify. This card is why we're running 2 copies of Shadow Mist, because you want to be able to use this card to tag out one of your different warriors. Normally, it's a Phantom Knight into a copy of Shadow Mist, which is just then immediately translates into a Dark Law. Then we have 1 copy of Reinforcement of the Army, because we're on a lot of warriors. We have 1 copy of Foolish Burial, because all the Phantom Knights float. 1 copy of Mass Change Normal, because if you transmodify the Shadow Mist, you can then just mass change that card instead of having to discard a card to mass change 2. 3 copies of Mass Change 2, because you can then make Dark Law off of any of your Phantom Knights monsters. Then we have the traps. 2 copy of Phantom Knight's Wing. We need to be running more copies of the Phantom Knight's trap cards because we don't have access to a lot of the other good Phantom Knights cards that aren't common, and Wing is just the second best one. It is good as an extender when you can banish it from Yard if you mill it off of Dante, and you often will need to be able to special summon from your graveyard some of your additional Phantom Knights. We then have 3 copies of Fogblade, also known as Pogblade, because it is the best card in this deck. It is a searchable Fiendish Chain that also floats into being a monster reborn for your Phantom Knights, and the main reason to run this deck. With the extra, we have 3 copies of Masked Heroes, those being 1 Anki and 2 Dark Law. Hanky is just a bigger monster that you can summon off of your Mask Change, and Darklaw is the reason to be playing hero stuff, because Darklaw is an incredibly powerful floodgate. We then have one copy of Dark Rebellion Xyz Dragon, the one good rank 4 that this deck can make. We have 2 copies of Phantom Knights of Breaksword, a way to get into said Dark Rebellion Xyz Dragon and just a good Phantom Knight card. 3 copies of Levier the Sea Dragon, probably the most busted card in the extra deck, because it is not a hard once per turn. You can begin to start looping and recycling your Phantom Knights cards from your banished pile after you've used their effects. So this card is just incredibly powerful. We have 1 copy of Dante, Traveler of the Burning Abyss. I wish I could bump this up to 2, but the extra deck space is incredibly tight. This is normally the first rank 3 that you're going to summon in this deck. It just mills 3 cards to your yard. We then have Utopic Future. While Utopic Future Draco might not be legal in Common Charity, Utopic Future is still pretty good. Its effect is that if it battles an opponent's monster, it takes control of that opponent's monster until the end of that battle phase. So, if your opponent has a problematic monster on the field, you can use this to take that card from their side of the field and put it onto your side of the field. Namely, the card you'll be using this on is something like Lunalight Leo Dancer. Then we have 1 copy of Goki the Borreload Ogre. There are a lot of lines that allow us to make this card. I wish that we had the capability of making 2, but 1 is still pretty powerful. This card is a Towers and can only be outed via Kaiju or combat. Up next, we have 1 copy of Geonator Transverser, just a really powerful Link 2 in the Common Charity format. 1 copy of Gravity Controller, just in case we really need to remove our Dante from the field. This normally comes up if your opening hand is exactly like Gloves and Cloak, or, well, plus a Silent Boots. So your Dante is made up of 2 Phantom Knights and you want to get both into yard somehow, because your mills were somehow incredibly bad. And then 1 copy of Codebreaker Virus Swordsman. This is essentially a card that just turns your Leviers into warrior fodder to be able to make the Goki the Borreload Ogre. So that's the list. Let's move on to the test hands. So initially when I was putting this list together, I hadn't realized that I could make Borreload Ogre. After playing this test hand, I realized exactly how easy it would be able to make Goki the Borreload Ogre along with everything else. So, we're going to start off with a Terror Top and getting a Takatom Warg that was sadly in our hand to the field. We're then going to Dante, milling both a Silent Boots and a copy of Cloak, banishing them both to get their respective effects. Going to use the normal summon on the Gloves, going to then use the Levier to bring back the Cloak, then use the Levier to bring back the copy of Silent Boots, going to then banish the Gloves to send off the Wings, which can then be reborn into another Phantom Knight. Then going to use Levier again, then going to make Utopic Future. And if I had the Borreload Ogre in this build, at that moment, I could have easily linked off 2 of the Levier before I went into the 3rd one, and then made a Goki the Borreload Ogre along with the multiple back row. Here we are with another hand. This one luckily has Terror Top, but it sadly has both Mask Change and Mask Change 2 in it as well. So we're going to start off with going into Terror Top. Terror Top will then get the Takatom Borg. We can then make a copy of Dante, milling 3, seeing if we hit something good. We hit Wing, which can bring us back Cloak. Cloak will then allow us to make Boots. We can then banish the copy of the Gloves to get another Phantom Knight to yard. We can then search a copy of Fogblade using the Boots in Graveyard. Then going to normal summon Marauding Captain, which allows us to go into Greaves, allowing us to go to another Levier, summoning back the copy of Silent Boots, link away for the Virus Swordsman, link into the Borreload Ogre, and then make a copy of Darklaw. So we end on a board of Borreload Ogre, Darklaw, and a copy of Fogblade, as well as a stacked Graveyard for the next turn. Here we are with a hand that doesn't contain a Terror Top, but it does have some pretty good extenders in it. So let's start it off. We're going to start off by normal summoning Marauding Captain, which will then trigger the Kagamuchi Knight to special summon. We're then going to put a Phantom Knight of Silent Boots onto the field, which allows us to special summon our other Silent Boots. We're then going to mill 3 to Dante, milling another Silent Boots. Wow, that's 3 Silent Boots in the top to 8 cards of the deck. Then going to go into a Levier the Sea Dragon, which will then let us special summon back another Silent Boots. Then going to go into Fire Swordsman, link it all the way for a Power Load Ogre, and end on a Power Load Ogre and a Fog Blade with Stacked Graveyard. Here we are with the wrap-up, and so what I have learned about this deck is that it is consistently able to make some form of boss monster while also being able to back it up with Fog Blade. What I think really makes this deck stand out amongst the rest of the different decks you can play in Common Charity is the consistent access to cards like Fog Blade. Negates aren't really rampant in Common Charity, and Fog Blade is definitely one of the better negate cards you could be playing. So, if this is the kind of strategy that you're really interested in with Rank 3 Xyz Turbo, then you might just want to test this list out. I'm pretty sure there is something that I missed, some way to tweak this deck to make it even better, even more consistent, and even more powerful. Well, thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Leave a comment, like, and subscribe, and I hope you all have an excellent day.